All right, good morning. So today is October 31st, which in our culture is Halloween. Um, the root of that actually comes from Ireland and Scotland and Gaelic culture, and it was Samhain. And it's the halfway point between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice. And it was considered the last harvest. It was the last harvest, and people would finish gathering the crops and bring the cattle up from the fields, and they would light bonfires, um, and it was also considered the time that we are closest, like the veil between life and death, between those in the living realm and those who have passed over. That veil is kind of the flimsiest it is. It's like there's an opening. Um, and this idea that God is closer, God, angels, demons, everything from the world that we don't really usually see, that we take on faith. Right? Faith is like we can't really know or prove or see or touch this, but we maybe believe that there's this other presence in the world. So this is actually the eve, and then tomorrow is about really feeling maybe a little bit deeper connection and presence to forces greater than ourselves that scare us. And in Judaism, the interesting word that we always use for that is related to awe, is this word yireh, which means fear and awe, right? Like we're in awe of the mystery, but we're also afraid of it because we don't understand it. It's not tangible, and we don't know. So in today's Parsha, which is Lech Lecha, God starts out by saying to Abraham, you need to leave the place of your birth. You need to leave your native people. You need to leave your homeland, and you need to actually leave your parents' house itself. Like you need to leave everything you know, everything you've ever known, everything that is familiar and tangible to you, and you need to trust and go into what is unknown, go into what is unfamiliar, go into what is scary, and just trust that I'll lead you on the journey. And that could be terrifying. And Abraham agrees, and he packs everybody up and he goes. And so the question for us is, well, maybe we'll reflect on this in the meditation and through the practice. But the question for us is, how much in our adult life do we consciously choose faith over fear? How often do we choose to intentionally leave behind what we know and what is easier and what feels safe to go into what is unknown and potentially risky, and that isn't familiar to us. In the yoga practice, maybe we'll play with what would it look like to push myself into something new, unfamiliar, you know that feels a little scary. Like I don't know what to expect. I don't know how to do this yet. Um, and then what's the reward for that? So actually in the Parsha, there's a lot of reward for that, right? Throughout the whole Parsha, God is rewarding Abraham for his faith, for his risk taking, and grant him a covenant. You shall be blessed and you will have generations that'll be more multitudinous than the stars, and other people will be blessed by you. And there's an actual covenant for this. It's like the reward for taking the risk and getting outside your comfort zone is there's some new growth, there's some new blessing that shows up. The question is, are we able and willing to go there, or do we wait till the universe kicks us in the ass and forces us to go there? Right? Right? How do we choose it versus how do we wait until everything's kind of catastrophic and forces us anyway into change? Because, right? So it's really about grace, maybe. How graceful are we with the unknown and with the ability to go to lean into what scares us a little. All right, let's start with a little bit of meditation. And then okay. So just find your comfortable seat this morning and just like move a little bit first. Don't just like get there and, like settle quite yet. Just take a little side stretch maybe. I like this like pushing down into my thigh, kind of like, oh, you feel the instant release in the low back and the side waist. Yeah, you can relax the neck, the ear. I just heard something crack for me in my cervicals. So just like, let's just find the body here. For some people, just to sit quietly in meditation is terrifying. I know so many people who say, I try to meditate, but when I sit and try, I get so angsty because so much comes up and my brain doesn't stop. And right, that could be scary to be alone with self even. So, and it is unknown what's going to show up. The mind is constantly at work, the heart is open, and all kinds of emotions can arise. So, the invitation for the next 2, 3 minutes, and I'll be silent, is to just be, breathe, observe what comes up with a sense of like awe and wonder and yirat Hashem, this awe of the infinite, this maybe a little bit of fear, like what's showing up, what's showing up, and this, and this, and this. Whatever is showing up, just notice your own breathing. Can your breathing stay easy? Right? Whatever is presenting, can you still inhale deeply, exhale, and release all the breath? And maybe if something unpleasant does show up in your thought or as a sensation in your body, maybe instead of running away from it or avoiding it or trying to distract yourself from it, maybe just move closer to it. Wherever that tension or pain is in the physical body, let yourself inhabit it and really immerse. Whatever thought is creating a little bit of angst, maybe just let yourself be with it and feel it for a moment. But also breathing calmly with it. And maybe you can do a little investigation like, what is it about this thing that scares me? Or just makes me uncomfortable? What is it that makes me uncomfortable? And how might I trust and also take care of myself in being present with this. Can bring your hands over your heart in an act of self-love and appreciating and honoring even sitting in the safety of your own home on your mat, but becoming really present can push us, right? And we honor ourselves when we have the strength and the courage to go into those places. All right. When you're ready, let's start with just a little kind of wringing out Kriya. So you could take your fingertips to your shoulders. We're just gonna gently, I don't know, this is like a tough one to do in the morning. You really feel where you're tight. Yeah. And I like what Sharon's doing. She's kind of like doing a little double when she gets there. She's like, oh, yeah, I like that. That feels even better. Yeah. So just see, maybe do this however you want, but one way I like to do it is imagine, visualize like going really low from the base of the spine. And as I twist, I'm sort of coming up and up and up and up and up the spine just to check in at each level, like what's there today? Where am I feeling this? Right? Where is there discomfort? Where is there ease? And notice where I would rather play. I'd rather go where it was easy. I'd rather not be aware of all the knots and the tightnesses. But being aware of it, then it's like, oh, maybe I need something there. Maybe if I actually pay attention to that tightness and work it out, there'll be some benefit at the end of that process. Okay, let's shake the hands. You can shake the wrists. You can do a little overhead if you want. Just to get some energy here. Good, 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 good. Now lift the arms all the way up and just really, you could take your opposite wrist if you want, or you could take like hands together, but just really stretch all the way up, all the way up. Now lengthen one side of your side waist. Just arch over. Good. And head over the other way. Nice. And then give yourself a big hug. See if you can get your fingertips to touch the inside of your shoulder blades. Can you actually reach that far across? I'm like, you're like, what? Sam is like, not happening in this moment. Yeah. But wherever you are, think about then pulling your shoulders down from your ears and like you could spread your shoulder blades wider. Now it might be easier to touch them with your fingertips. Like feel like you're pulling your shoulder blades on the back body, widening them away from each other. Good. And puff up the upper back, breathe. And let's just fold forward here for a second. Really puff up the upper back. And you can do a little wiggle side to side here. Just notice what's there. And I know for a fact that I've never done this with you guys before because I don't know if I've ever done this with myself before. So this is like a new experience in the body, right? And maybe it feels good, maybe it doesn't feel so good, but a new experience gives us new information about ourselves. And if we're always staying stuck in our comfort zone, we don't get the benefit of that, right? All right, unwind. Oh, and if you can remember which way you just did under, do the opposite. Can you unwind and do the opposite? And hug here and pull the shoulders down away from the ears again. Let's like release and make sure there's like space. Yep. And then puff up the upper back, fold forward. Let your chin come to your chest. Relax the neck. Really big breath into the lungs. Inflate, inflate. And let it out and come all the way up. All right, bring your feet out in front of you, hands behind your back. This is if your wrists are safe, if you do what is appropriate for you. I just want us to take a little bit of a lift here. Yeah, so pushing down into all 10 fingertips. Really get your fingertips grounded so you're not putting all the weight into the heels of the hands. And I tend to lock out because I'm super over flexible, but try to resist locking out the joint. So come out of the joint into the muscle. Good. And then just lower your bottom towards the ground and then press up again. Let's just do a couple of those. And if you want to make this a little harder, you can lift a leg with you and you can bend the elbows at the bottom. So now you're adding a little tricep press and a little extra weight that you need to lift and hold as you lift the leg. And I have no idea why we're doing this, except that it just feels like I'm just being called to like have you do stuff that we have never done. Just to see, just to be like, okay, this is weird. Halloween, the day, and that's weird. Lech Lecha, like, wait, I'm leaving everything I know, my country, my people, the language, the customs, the culture. You're telling me to leave my family, everything. That's weird. Go down to Egypt, and be in the house of the Pharaoh and different kings of Sodom. And there's a lot of like being among strangers. God, come on over onto your hands and knees. God says you're going to be a sojourner in a foreign land for a while. What does that look like to be the foreigner, to be the outsider, it's not first language and first, this feeling of, oh yes, everybody knows you. So you can take whatever you want in your hands and knees. So I'm circling through my hips this morning because that's what's calling me, but you could take cat-cows through the mid-back, through the shoulders. If it's the pelvis that you want to really unwind, maybe focus on the pelvis in this movement. And then when you're ready, you can tuck toes and lift the knees, coming into your first down dog. And stretching out your down dog here. See if you can tuck your chin all the way into your chest and let the crown of the head reach towards the ground, as if there's like a weight on the crown of the head and it's trying to pull you down. Just see how that feels. And then bend your elbows a little bit as you do that and see how that feels. Good. Come up high on your tiptoes and reach your tailbone up as the highest point. And see how that feels. All right, you're gonna walk your feet towards your hands and do a little shaking out and then make your way up to stand. Okay. All right. Let's do something familiar. Let's just do some very classic sun salutations and lunges. Do the best you can. Let's just move just to wake up the body and get a little bit of energy going. So big breath in, arms come up overhead. As you exhale, you can fold down over the legs. Inhale, come all the way back up. Exhale, hands to the heart. Tricked you. That was the first one. I tricked you. Yeah, we'll do it now. Sorry, I just wanted to do one. Inhale all the way up. Exhale, fold yourself over. Good. This time, come halfway up. You're preparing your spine, nice flat back, belly draws in, shoulders away from the ears. As you exhale, fingertips come down to the floor, and you're going to step your right leg back. You're going to come all the way up for a high lunge. Good. Yeah. I'll give you guys a second to find your balance. Someone just got knocked over by a dog. Good. Exhale your hands back down to the mat. You're going to step your left foot back. You're going to lower the knees down to the floor. Bend the elbows, slow, 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 slow. Lower all the way down to the belly. Untuck the toes. Hands are under the shoulders. And you're just going to press into the hands and the tops of the feet and Feel your upper torso off the mat. The pelvic floor, yeah, good. Pelvic bone stays down. Keep the toes down and press into the pinky toes, especially so you're not overarching low back. Good. Good. Squeeze those shoulder blades together. Make a little shelf for the heart. Pull the shoulders down from the ears. Good. And then lower the forehead to the mat. Tuck your toes. Thumb through hands and knees. And press into your downward facing dog. Good. Take a few breaths here. You'll inhale, gaze up between your hands. On your exhale, step that right foot all the way to the front of the mat. Inhale all the way up to your lunge. Find your balance here. Find your breath. Good. Float the hands back down to the ground. Inhale, step your back foot up and come into that flat back. Yep. Exhale, fold down over the legs. Inhale, rise all the way up. And exhale, hands to your heart. Let's do that again. We'll start with the left leg back though. Inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, folding. Good. Inhale, lengthen and prepare the spine. Exhale, fingers to the floor. Left foot back. Inhale, lunge. Smile. Good. Exhale, hands back to the mat. Step that front foot back. Lower knees, lower chin and chest all the way slow, slow, slow to the ground. Good. Inhale, cobra. Belly pulls into the back of the spine. Squeeze the elbows into the side waist. Good. Lower down. And come through hands and knees back into your downward dog. Gaze up between your hands. Left foot steps all the way to the front of the mat. Inhale up to the lunge. Good. Exhale, hands to the floor. Step up with the right leg. Come into the flat back. Exhale, folding out over the legs. And inhale all the way up. Good. Exhale, hands to the heart. Let's do, I haven't done this in forever. I don't know why, but classic B series of a yoga sequence. So we're going to go with awkward chair and go through warrior one, warrior two. Okay. So hands to your heart. Just check in for a moment. Close your eyes. Check in for a moment. Are you feeling your heart rate a little bit elevated from that movement? Okay. You're going to inhale and sit down into a squat. So you're inhaling, you can bring your arms forward. They don't have to go way up by your ears. You can keep them forward. But you're sitting down, yeah, really nice. So your hips move back behind you, belly is in, keeping the chest open. You should be able to look down and still see your toes. So your knees are not all the way forward past your toes. Your knees are pulling back, hips back in like you're sitting in a chair. This is why I don't do this sequence. I hate awkward chair. This is not a comfortable pose to be in. You know, we're human. We seek comfort and ease. We try to avoid what's uncomfortable and painful, but it can have benefit. Good. Stand all the way up nice and tall. Exhale, dive down over the legs. Inhale, halfway, lengthen the spine. As you exhale, that right foot steps all the way back, but the heel is going to be down. Toes are turned. Yep, and you're going to come up for warrior one. So hips are reaching forward for warrior one, arms out. Yep, front knee bends. Try not to collapse your back arch and roll off the outer edge of that back foot. Keep the back edge of that right foot really like glued to the ground. Yep, and as you lunge that front knee farther forward, you're going to feel a big opening in the hips. You can even bring your hands down to your hips to feel this. Let's just stay here for a minute. Not a full minute. That was scary. A full minute. Yeah, but just notice this one's great for lower back, for outer hips, for glutes, because what we're really trying to do with this little bit of twist is open the outer bands from the hips down to the knees. So you might feel this in the tush, right? So just let yourself go there. Now, bend your front knee another inch deeper. Uh-huh. Yeah. And maybe that feels uncomfortable, scary. Like, wait, I don't want to go deeper in this pose. What are you talking about? I want to come out of the pose. No, no, no. Go deeper, another inch. Go deeper. You can do it. No one's knee is all the way past your ankles. I can see you guys. Yeah, good. Now take your arms up. Lean back a little bit. Belly draws in and up. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. A little bit of lean back. Maybe look, peel your eyes just to look towards the ceiling. If that doesn't feel good in your neck, don't do that, right? You want to keep your neck and throat open. Good. All right, from here, you're going to extend your left leg over your left knee, right arm back behind you. Good. And now we're opening the inner thighs, and you'll feel this. So now, what I'm going to ask you to do beyond your comfort zone is actually widen your stance a little. So scooch that back leg back a little, or that front leg forward a little more. Go wider than you normally would. So maybe it's in your comfort zone to do the pose here, and you get a little opening, and okay, I'm holding myself. But what would it feel like to go deeper and almost be parallel to the floor with this front knee? That might feel scarier. So let yourself do it. It's going to come to an end. This is temporal, right? Temporary. It's a transition. Arch yourself back. Breathe into the front rib cage. Find some space. Good. And then come into some variation of extended side angle. So often, we just do the forearm to the thigh, right? And what we want to make sure that we're keeping the knee deep. We're taking this twist in the sideways, upper shoulders up and back, and the top arm can come to the sky or come overhead. Other variations, especially if you want to challenge yourself today, might be to take the block to the outside of the leg, go a little deeper there. Another option is that this upper hand, instead of reaching forward, can reach behind you and come to like behind your low back, or even reach like back under. This is the scariest version. Okay. Lech Lecha. Me'artzecha. Hand comes under, and you're trying to find some connection between those fingertips, and now you're in a bound version of that pose. Very, very deep. And honestly, like I haven't practiced this deep in a long time, right? And maybe it is because on some level it scares me. Maybe it is because it's harder. It's just harder, Like, oh, do I want it to be hard or do I want it to feel really like nice? But something about going deep and it opens new possibilities. All right, from here, triangle pose. So straighten your front leg, step your back foot in a little closer now, so you're not quite as wide. Both legs are straight, and again, just find the twist in the belly, sideways. Open that top arm up to the sky. Ah. And see what it feels like to turn your gaze down to your foot in front of you. Like, how does that release that neck, the shoulder? Gives you a lot more space out of that right shoulder. Good. All right, bend your front knee. We're going to take a little half moon. If you have the block there with you, you can take it forward of your front foot to the outside of the pinky toe. You could bring your right hand down to that right hip. You're going to step all your weight into the left foot. And you're just going to float in any version of half moon you're able to come into today. Yeah, so really zip up the inner line of your standing leg. Feel the kneecap lift in and up. Feel your pelvic floor muscles engage. Feel your belly activate and draw back into the spine. That's the strength and the foundation that sets you up. If you want to play a little further, you can bend the right leg, reach for your ankle behind you, and take a little. So balancing and falling out of balance is a little scary. definitely out of our comfort zone. Definitely, we don't know anytime we work our way into a balance pose what we're going to find there. It's the unknown. But how graceful, how much can we breathe with it without frustration, without a lot of overlay of additional suffering and judgment for ourselves. Just like be with what shows up with a sense of faith and trusting in ourselves. Okay, release all of that out. Woo! You're going to make your way back somehow to a downward facing dog. And from your down dog, just shake out your hips. You can come forward into a plank pose. You can either lower down through cobra, or you can do a chaturanga into an up dog, whatever you'd like. Good. And then we'll come back into downward facing dog. You're gonna bend your knees in your down dog. Bend your knees, look up between your hands. Actually, yeah, let's just do this. Look up between your hands. You're gonna jump your feet to the front of the mat, or step, step, walk, walk, walk. You're gonna bend the knees deeply and sit down into your awkward chair. So we'll just do one side first, and then we'll do the other side again. Good. And we know this pose doesn't get any easier the second time around. It still sucks. All right, hands to your heart. Let's take a little twist. It's actually gonna get worse than it was the first time. You're gonna take your left elbow across to the right outer thigh, and you're gonna find that contact between the tricep and the outer leg and push into each other. That's gonna twist you around. Oh, this feels amazing in my left shoulder. It's really stretching behind the shoulder blade. Pull both of your hips up and back behind you. Yeah, so you're still able to see your feet. Your knees are still pulling back. Yeah. Try not to let one knee come all the way forward past the other knee. That means your hips are like twisting from the hips. Pull both hips back, knees even, and twist from the belly, pulling in, and the shoulders wrapping around. Yeah. And come on up. Posture break, stand up nice and tall. Reach your hands up to the sky. And then sit back down into the chair and immediately twist yourself across to the other side. So notice in the pose, what can make this more graceful? What could I let go of that doesn't need to be here, that is getting in the way? You know? Good. Just one more breath, one more, you can do it. And stand it all the way up. Woo, bring your hands to your heart. Oh my gosh, all right. Let's do a little bit of this just to kind of, that was a lot in the quads. So just heel to tush a few times, just to stretch the quads and re-engage the hamstrings here for a second. How are we doing? Are we doing all right? Yeah. Okay, great. All right, so let's do the second side with the Warrior 2 series, and then we'll see where we go. Okay? All right, so we're going to, quick one this time, I promise, I'm not keeping you there. You're going to have a seat. Good. Inhale all the way up to the sky, stand up. Exhale, float over the legs. Inhale halfway, lengthen the spine. Exhale, stepping that left leg back, turn the toes out, heel down, front knee bent deeply, and rise up for Warrior 1. Yeah. And just notice, like, that's challenging. I mean, especially for those of us, I know a lot of us are walkers, so like if you walk a lot, you know, and these outer hips get tight. This isn't a comfortable, easy, natural direction that we want to go into, right? But let's go there. Go a little bit deeper in the front knee, but still keep pressing back into that outer blade of the left foot. Don't collapse in, okay? Yeah, good. Maybe another inch deeper. Zip up from the pelvic floor through the belly. Chest open. Good. Yep. And you can take the arms up if you want and lean back. The other thing you could do is bring your hands, clasp them behind your back, open the shoulders and lean back there as well. So just leaning back, and how does that feel? Maybe that feels a little like, what? I don't want to go backwards. Can you elevate your gaze? Maybe look up to the ceiling. How does that feel? Good. Release the arms, and we're gonna cartwheel open now to the warrior two. Yeah, are your legs really feeling this practice? Oh my gosh. Yeah, my quads are like dying here. It was all those chairs like did me in. Okay, so here we are. We're nice and deep anyway. Anyway, right? If God comes to you in a vision, in a dream, and says, if you do this, if you take this risk, if you trust and you see where it leads you, I promise it's going to lead you to something really amazing that you never could have imagined. And how many of us ignore that and just like, no, 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 no. Right? Or what does it take? What are our resources? Reach it back. What are our resources that actually help us to feel like, yeah, I could do this? I mean, Abraham wasn't doing it completely alone, right? He had his wife and he had his nephew, right? So we have each other, we have community, we have friends, we have family, we have professional people who can help us. So take those risks that we need to get unstuck from a certain way of life where we've kind of closed down the possibilities of our own growth. Come forward into whatever variation you want. I personally am going to make myself take the bind again, but you do what is appropriate for you. Just make sure you're getting that feeling of leaning backwards. So this back hip isn't jutting out behind you and the knee isn't collapsing inward. That knee is really reaching straight ahead. That tush is tucked slightly under you, right? Good. And then if you take the bind, the front arm reaches behind through the legs, the back arm reaches behind, and then you open up there. And what the bind really does is create even more opening into the side body and through the rib cage. All right, half moon. No, triangle first. Okay, step your back foot in a little closer, straighten through both legs, and you could come up to reset for your triangle. Both your hips are reaching back behind you. So side waist is lengthening. Yep. And then find fingertips to the shin or to a block. Again, it's really common to lock out into the knee joint. Try to avoid that. Put a little bend in the knee. It's going to be harder to do that. Less familiar, but healthier, safer, more benefit and growth of your muscle. Good. And wherever you are in this triangle, smile. Triangle is about harmony. It is a stable structure. All right, here we go. Less stable coming up. From stable to unstable, stable to unstable. That's a little bit part of the dance with life. Block comes to the floor. Step into your front foot and lift the back leg up. And you can keep your gaze down. You can use a wall, right? If you want to do this as a variation, you can literally just do this right by a wall and take the same pose, but my fingertips are on the wall to support my balance. And I can still get the feeling of what that feels like to float and lift, right? So whatever stage you're at, and Abraham's growth comes in stages. It doesn't happen all at once. There's a lot of trials and tribulations and questioning and, oh yeah, but you promised me this, but I'm not seeing it happening yet. How is that going to be possible? And the reiteration of like, you have to have faith. You have to just keep moving forward in this direction and the reward will come. Can you keep pushing yourself to try something new? Ooh. All right, if you wanted to take the variation on this side where you reach for the heel, I don't know if I could do it on this side. My balance on this side is really wonky today. But maybe you find that pose. Okay. Whew. Release it all out. Okay, so I know when we talk about poses that scare us, we usually, things that are hard, we did some of that. Things you hold for longer than you want to, we did some of that. poses that go very deep, we did a little bit of that. Usually also there's something about going upside down or balancing on your hands that feels scary, right? Arm balance isn't upside down. So I'll give you a couple of options because only you know what feels safe and appropriate as a level of risk that you're able and willing to take today. Okay, so one option I'm going to give is to do standing splits in the middle of the room or at the wall. That'll give you the sense of inversion. And then from there, if you want to go to a higher stage of bringing it up into a handstand, you can. So what that looks like is, let me just show you. I'm going to take 2 blocks in front of me, and I'm going to keep my blocks out here. I'll show you from the side. So standing split, I'm just going to stand here, lift one leg up as high as it can go. I've got the blocks to support me. Maybe you don't need the blocks and your fingers are on the floor, but that's a standing split. And that can be scary in and of itself. It's a deep stretch in the inner thighs. I'm upside down, you know. That's one thing. If you want to do this at the wall, it makes it more intense. So a little scarier at the wall, but also deeper and more benefit. And again, you could do it with blocks or without. I'll just show you with blocks. Hands to the blocks. And I have one leg back to the wall, like I'm almost like a down dog with my heels at the wall. And then I'm going to bend one knee in and lift the leg here. You may not be able to go as deep. Maybe you start from a little farther away from the wall, if that helps you with the flexibility to get that leg up. The farther from the wall, the easier. The closer you step it in, the harder. And here I'm in like a, full standing split. This is going to be a big stretch, right? Good. So that's those. Try that first, standing split, either in the middle of the floor or on the blocks. Now, if going upside down is not great for you, and you really don't want to go full upside down with your head that low, the other option is do something nice and easy at the wall. If you have a wall, just put the legs up the wall. Now, this is not scary. This is totally relaxing, but you will get a nice inversion, similar to what we're doing, which is just opening the backs of the legs. Okay, so take whichever option feels right for you now. And being upside down will elevate your heart rate, right? Your heart's going to start beating fast. You're going to get sweatier being upside down. So those two kind of reactions in the body are often associated with a sense of excitement or alertness, that kind of like a little bit of like, oh, wait, can I do this? Can I open? Yeah. Yeah. So now, Dina, if you pull your blocks a little closer into you, and maybe you edge that foot up and that knee up a tiny bit more. Good. And then, yeah, and you could do an inversion in the middle of the floor. If you want to take this into a handstand, once you've opened those thighs, the handstand, you can just play with just kicking up, right? So you're just kind of a little bit of bounce, bounce, bounce off one leg, the other leg straight, and maybe you find the wall, and then you're there. And you can play with one foot on the wall or the other. So just different options for your own practice. Okay. If you're done with that practice, if you're not done, keep playing with whatever you want there. But if you are done and you want to move on to something next, let's do another little kind of, I don't know if we're going to do any arm balances today. That sort of counts as an arm balance if you went into the handstand version of it. Let's do, again, stages of a little bit of a bridge. So you can bring your feet in front of your hips. Knees are up, hands by your sides, and let's just start with a basic easy bridge. You're just gonna pike your hip points up towards the ceiling. Try not to let the knees fly out to the side. Keep the knees reaching towards each other, straight ahead. Good. And let's just take a little bit of glute presses here. So tiny little, like an inch down and an inch up. You'll feel this right away where those hamstrings meet the glutes. Good. Good. Maybe you can bring your right foot in a little bit more to the midline and then lift your left leg up to the sky. You could take your arms down for this, or yeah. And can you give me 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 little glute presses here? And then lower that leg and see if you can bring the other leg up and do the same. Good. And slowly lower all the way down. Let's do a crow pose from our back. It's not nearly as scary as doing it on your hands. All right, here's how we do this. This is really good core, actually. Okay, so you're gonna take your hands, reach your arms up to the sky, and take your feet off the floor. This is actually, sometimes we call this dead bug pose. So kind of like a dead bug. Okay, here we go. You're gonna open the knees a little wider, and you're gonna draw them closer in towards your armpits and towards your triceps. Now, bend the elbows. Hands are still reaching to the sky, so we're kind of like in chaturanga arms. Bend the elbows. So knees are trying to press into the outer arms, and the outer arms are pressing back into the knees. And I just want you to push for dear life. Knees are pulling into the arms, but your arms are pressing back out. You could bring the toes together, bring the toe tips together. Just stay here with your head still on the ground. Yeah, just squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. You feel this is like a really strong adductor core. Okay, now the crow pose would be slightly lifted. The shoulders would come off the mat, but you're not chin to chest looking straight forward. You're kind of looking kind of towards where your thumbs are. You're looking between your toes and thumbs. So just look slightly forward. Throat is still open. Squeeze for dear life. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. You should be shaking and sweating. Good. And lower back down. Extend your arms and legs. Is that hard? All right. If anyone wants to try crow now, I'll model and you can try crow as an arm balance, okay? If you're not doing crow, here's my other invitation to you. Do some version of additional either core work or more bridges, okay? So core work, you could do any kind of regular core work that you know that you like, but take the time to do some of that. For crow, we're doing the same exact pose we just did, but we're starting on our toes instead. Knees are open. We're sitting up on our toes. Yep. And then hands, just like we said, hands to the floor. Yep. Elbows bent. And hands and the elbows and knees connect. And you could just stay there. And you're going to squeeze. That's the start of this pose. You're just squeezing the thighs into the arms and the arms into the thighs. And that sets up the strength of the core and the connection. The next stage of that would be to then kind of lift your tush up off the back of your legs and heels. So you're creating more space between that. And you're looking forward, not down, right? You're keeping the neck long, looking slightly forward of your fingertips and coming up more onto the tiptoes, more onto the tiptoes. Maybe one foot lifts up. I'll show you from the side too. So here I am, and I can just stay here and keep squeezing, keep squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And this is my core work. Maybe I lift one foot up off the ground. Maybe I lift the other foot up off the ground. So I'm just playing with that. And then maybe I can find both lifting up. Toes can touch or come towards each other. I'm just squeezing my arms into my thighs and vice versa. And I'm still looking just like right in front of me. And then I come back down. All right. The one person who said she didn't want to do crow is doing good for you for trying. Good. And when you're done, wiggle out your wrists if that's a strain on the wrist a little bit. Okay. I know I'd asked you to get a strap, and I know we're running out of time, but I heard outer hips scare us a little bit, and it's the place we don't always choose to go to, but we know we sort of need to go there. So you're going to take your strap, you're going to place it over the base of the toes on the right foot, You can keep the left leg out long in front of you. If your low back is a little tweaky, you can keep that knee bent and the foot to the floor. Good. So from here, the strap is around your right foot. You're gonna hold the strap with the left hand, let your right arm relax, and you're just gonna start gently, without lifting the hip, without rolling off of the sacrum. You're keeping that down. You're just letting this leg drop towards the left side. I like it with the leg extended a little. So you're not going very far. You're not gonna get very far, but you're gonna feel it. You're gonna feel it from the ankle to the outer knee, from the knee up all the way along this IT band into the outer hip. Yep. So we're just going, you want to make this a little bit more. Take your palm and just kind of press your right thigh away from you as you do that. Ah. Yeah, you can really feel this. So what is some change in your own life? It doesn't have to be a big catastrophic, God forbid, but like some small change that if I had the guts and courage and motivation and the will to actually do this, even though it feels uncomfortable or hard, if I did this, I know there would be a really positive outcome for me in some way of growth, something I need, something I'm hoping for. And notice where you've been, where you shy away from it, and see if there's anything from this practice and from this week's Parsha that could add a little bit of encouragement for you to maybe go to that place. Maybe as you're hanging out in this pose, you notice it gets easier and you can actually go a little farther. Yeah. All right. Bring that back in. Let's take the other side. Oh, I didn't say this on the other side, but I'll tell you here. If you flex the heel away from you and pull the toes back towards your face a little bit more, that also is going to engage this pose differently. And I know we all have times in our lives that we could look back on and think that was one of the scariest times of my life where everything felt unknown. I was in brand new, uncharted territory. Like I have never been there, done this before. I don't know how or if I'm going to survive or work through this. And you did. You survived and you worked through it and you're on the other end of it. So, in retrospect, looking back, does that help you now to have a sense of like faith or trust in your own resilience or in God or the universe or some higher power, whatever it is you understand? All right, release that side. Anything else you need to feel good today? Just you could have happy babies, reclining pigeons, twists, anything else you want. Yeah. And then when you're ready, you can let yourself settle into your Shavasana. And taking a moment to offer prayers for yourself, for your loved ones. And as you're ready, making your way back. Final teaching from the Parsha. So this is from Genesis 15, verse 1. The word of God came to Abram in a vision, saying, "Fear not, Abram. I am a shield for you. Your reward is very great. Al tira, anochi magen lach, sichachecha harbe meod." Don't be afraid. Be in awe, but don't be afraid. Have trust. The universe is shielding you, is protecting you, will keep you safe, and the reward is very, very great. Namaste, everybody. Thank you.